Peter Tolk, class of 1986.
For Peter, prep was everything. Peter competed in 3 sports. He was a star in 3 sports: football, wrestling, and lacrosse. But for Peter, it was all about team. Even an individual sport like wrestling, for which he's most noted, it was about team. He had so much pride in seeing prep advance. Everywhere we went, he represented prep well. He had a lot of pride, and still does, in Fairfield Prep. So the impact that Peter had on Fairfield Prep, particularly in the sport of wrestling that I can speak to, when Peter was a freshman, the team that he was joining was basically considered a club. Prep was in the MBAC in those years, and there were very few, if any, MBAC wrestling programs. So Prep had to pick up matches wherever they could off other people's empty spaces in their schedule, and could only schedule maybe a half dozen or so matches a year. The team had probably won a total of 3 matches over 5 years. When Peter was a freshman, through his whole career, the team never had a losing season, and in his senior year was 19-3. A great deal of that was because of his abilities, his accomplishments, and most of all, his leadership. No one worked harder. No one was more of an example of how to train, how to prepare, how to motivate than Peter. Every single person in that room looked up to him. When Peter competed in tournaments, it was must-see wrestling. People left other mats to go see his matches. You know, Peter was very instrumental in building the program because wrestling has, at that time, maybe 13 weight classes, and particularly in the upper weights, we didn't have a lot of athletes. And so he actually went and recruited many of his football teammates to join the wrestling team that were good athletes but had no experience, and took it upon himself to teach them in practice, to make them competitive. It was through Peter and Josh's success, since they were both football players, that helped convince Coach Lavery to give his nod of okay to the football players to join the wrestling team. Peter, on the wrestling mat, was a dominant force. He could beat you with strength, but he could also beat you with speed. And he prided himself on being a technical wrestler. In fact, his senior year, in 21 matches, he had 42 takedowns, 0 given up. Beyond that, though, he was the most humble person you would meet. He always deferred to his other teammates that were instrumental in upset wins that won us matches, not himself. He is truly a man for others. He has dedicated his life to helping others. He got his master's and his doctorate from Columbia University in social work. And he works now not only as a private practice therapist, but in the Fairfield Public School system as a social worker. Really caring deeply for those people struggling with both emotional and social needs. My name is Joe Beninati, and it is with great honor that I present Peter D. Tolk for enshrinement into the Fairfield Prep Athletic Hall of Fame. My mentee, my brother, my friend.